Ellis County. Anna Hammond's here with Unite Ellis podcast. Today we have Dena Petty. We're talking about mentoring the next generation and the effect it has on our communities. As a reminder, we're here to talk about thriving and flourishing communities. So let's get started. All right, Dena, thanks for being here. Give us your intro, who you're with, and all that fun stuff.
Okay, I'm Dena Petty. I'm the director, founder of Mentors Care. I started Mentors Care in 2009 in Midlothian, Texas. And oh my gosh, long story of how that all began. But basically, I was asked by Al Hemley, the principal at Midlothian High School, to start a mentoring program. And I was like, based upon my story, yes, let's do this.
Yeah.
And we tried to figure out what it was, how to do this. So I just wrote up a program. I started writing curriculum. I looked around the high school to figure out where we're going to be settled and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I walked into a broom closet at the library.
A broom closet?
And a book drop room.
That's great.
And I pushed a desk in there and I went, this is perfect. It served it well because you could have the mentors come in off the street.
Yeah.
And then you could have the kids come in from the school.
Yeah.
Perfect place to meet right there in the library.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And if you needed a broom to sweep or anything like that, it's right there.
Yeah, dual purpose room. We got to be sustainable.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
But it's a mentoring program for struggling high school students.
Okay.
And so right now we are serving on average around 60 students at each of our high schools with 60 mentors. It's one-to-one mentoring.
Yeah.
And there's curriculum. It's very intentional. It's very organized. We have a coordinator at each of the high schools, and they're kind of the social worker. When the student and the mentor meet, you find out a lot of struggles that they're having. And so that coordinator, one, is making sure that they're meeting every week. That's the magic.
Yeah.
But through that relationship, we find out they're really struggling. They need food. They need whatever.
Yeah.
And so they help with that.
Yeah,
So.
that's awesome. So I know y'all are in every high school in Ellis County, which we're very excited about. How many schools total are y'all in?
20 high schools total.
That's really awesome.
And we have, I would say, 2 to 3 in queue.
Okay.
At any given time that are talking, discussing
Sure.
if their district wants to bring us in.
So back in 2009, whenever they said, hey, can you come in and do this, what were they seeing that they identified, hey, this is the need here, that we want this? Like, what was going on?
Believe it or not, there was a big dropout rate in Midlothian back then. And it was an issue.
Wow.
Kids were walking away. So at the time, there were several programs available for elementary, middle school, but nothing for high school.
Okay.
And there were a lot of inner city, urban type programs, but nothing for suburb, rural areas.
Right.
And that's kind of what I grew up in.
Right.
So it kind of resonated with me like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a need too.
Yeah.
You still have all the same issues. So you have at-risk indicators.
Yeah.
You have at-risk indicators by the state, which are going to be students who are behind their peers in grades, moved a lot, parents incarcerated, impoverished, all those things. Okay, that's across the board.
Yeah.
That's true for all kiddos. They're struggling.
Yeah.
And could walk away for any one of those reasons. As we have evolved in Mentors Care, we find out there are other at-risk indicators, which are going to be bullied, depression, suicide ideations, cutters, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So we started realizing, okay, we have the at-risk indicators by the state, but then we also have our in-house. So when our coordinators are interviewing students to see if they're a good candidate for the program, they'll interview them and they'll kind of check it off.
They're noticing. Yeah.
And they'll, through triage, who are our most critical students?
Yeah.
Let's bring them together first with their mentor, get them going.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, so you mentioned your past or your history, so let's hear some of your story if you're willing.
Yeah. I'm actually writing my book right now.
Awesome. So we'll give a little preview because your book's based on your story as well.
Yes.
Okay.
I've been told my whole life, you got to write your story. You got to write your story. So here I am, the big 6-0 coming up in February, here in a month and a half. Well, 2 months. Well, no, a month and a half. it's time.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was time. We have so many amazing people working with Mentors Care now. And they're so gifted, do the job so much better than I ever could.
Yeah.
So starting from scratch, Mentors Care, we now have 27 employees, I guess, and they're doing so amazing.
That's great.
That it frees me up now to be able. So my goal is to inspire people for mentoring.
Okay.
Based upon my life, and that's why I'm writing this story.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was born. No, I'm kidding.
It all started.
Let's go all the way back. Okay.
You could skip over
Yeah,
a little bit.
Okay. Here's the highlights. So it blows people's mind when they find out my dad was in a lot of illegal things.
Okay.
We don't know exactly,
Okay.
but you can put pieces together.
Yeah. Okay.
He always had a lot of money. He didn't work.
Okay.
And he was gone at night a lot.
Okay.
A lot of women.
Okay.
Very abusive, angry person. He really, really struggled. He was impoverished. So he was one of 8 brothers, Native American, very discriminated against, and wound up on the street since he was 6.
Wow.
No shoes. He would talk about how he didn't have food. He remembered, seeing his breath in the house, because it was so cold.
Yeah.
So.
And where did you grow up?
He grew up in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
I grew up in New Orleans. We wound up in Louisiana.
Okay.
We moved around a lot. I went to 13 different schools growing up. So I can't spell cat. Even if you give me the C and the A, I can't spell cat. I missed all the phonics and all that stuff.
No.
But, and then my mother was in a cult religion.
Wow.
So you had my father and then you had my mother. And so I was with my mom a lot. She was not emotionally well. She had a past, never dealt with it. I believe in, we got to do the work.
Yeah.
We got to work on our issues, all of us.
Yeah.
And otherwise we pass it on.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, is that our family was just a mess.
Yeah.
Culminated a lot of things in that story, growing up, and that's all in the book.
Yeah.
But it culminated to a point when I was 16. My parents had divorced, and my mom had completely lost her mind. My dad was gone with his new wife and travel and all that thing. And I was with my mother. I was a kid that was bullied in school. I hardly went to school. It was hard.
Yeah.
Nobody woke me up to go to school. Nobody checked grades. It wasn't about being successful.
Yeah.
Because they believe this world, you're not supposed to be a part of it. So you're just supposed to get married and have other little babies that are them.
Yeah.
And so school was not emphasized at all. So I was a horrible student.
Yeah. And siblings?
I have an older brother
Okay.
and a younger brother.
Okay.
Okay, my older brother was gone at this time.
Okay.
When I was 16, parents divorced. My older brother and my dad never spoke again at that moment on.
Okay.
There was abuse in there, a lot of beating up one another. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I came home from school one day. My mom was not home, and she was always home.
Yeah.
And I go into the kitchen to go get my snack,
Of course, yeah.
16. And there's a note on the counter, and it said, Satan had won. She was going to kill herself, but first kill her children.
What?
And that's the note that I came home to that day. And I see my little brother walking down the driveway, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I don't know where she is. So that's kind of fearful, looking around. Where is she? What is she going to do? 'Cause she'd already been acting really erratic and crazy anyway. My whole childhood, but then it was really ramping up.
Yeah. So your older brother was gone at this point, out of the
gone. He was in
house. So it was you and
college.
your younger brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I called my dad. Luckily, he was not out of the country, and he came over and took the note. My mom had called. She was just away thinking about things. So Dad says, okay, put the note back in his pocket, and he goes, okay, well, she'll be back in a couple of days. Take care of your brother, and leaves.
Wow.
But that's, So it was at that moment I had made up my mind I was going to get out of there. I didn't know how, because I didn't believe in the philosophy of the religion at this point. I had started thinking for myself, and things were not piecing together. So, when I was 18, I met the future husband.
Yes.
That we are now married 38 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so that's a whole crazy story. But,
so did you stay in the house until 18?
No, that's when until 18.
Okay, at 18 you left.
And then I went to my mother and said, I can't do this religion anymore. She kicked me out. So she never spoke to me again. I haven't spoken to her in 41 years. And so I stayed in my car that summer and was hanging wallpaper to support myself. And then I was talking with Todd, and I said, my future husband, and I said, so you go to college? And he goes, yeah. And I went, I think I want to go to college.
What an idea.
So back in the day, a long time ago, I can't remember if it was 600 or 800, but something like that. I had saved money. I drove up to Louisiana Tech, and I went to the registrar's office, and I said, okay, I want to go to school here. And they're like, okay. I remember
so great.
I remember this lady, she was very kind, but you could tell, like,
she's like, what are you doing?
I remember that, but I don't know.
Like high school transcript, like where do you even start with all that?
She said, do you have any ACT or SAT scores? And I went, I don't even know what that is.
Oh.
And she goes, well, okay, so I could get the Pell Grant.
Okay.
She got me a loan. I knew I was going to get a job. I mean, you got to get a job.
Yeah.
And I had my money, first tuition money, cash. And she goes, all right, well, just pay that. We'll get you in school.
Wow, that's really cool.
And you just take your test, and we'll see how you do. I guess I did okay, because I never heard back.
That's good. So you eventually learned how to spell cat then.
We have spell check now, so who cares, But
That's so great. Okay, so I want to go back. So you were living in your car.
Yeah.
So you were technically, by definition, homeless at that point, and that was over the summer.
Yeah.
And then did you move on campus, or?
I did, and that's a dilemma, because, when they let out for Christmas breaks and stuff.
Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, what do you do? Yeah.
What did you do?
I stayed at Todd's family's house for a bit until I was really wearing out my welcome.
Yeah.
Dad and his new wife really didn't want me around. They were gone anyway. And then Mom, Yeah. So, that's part of the book as well, because they got really dark and they got really hard. Because when I left the religion, no one speaks to you again. All family, friends, everything. They just, you're gone.
Yeah, you're out.
Yeah, good luck. And, so anyway, that was a very depressed time. It was cold and wet and gloomy. And I had called my mom out of desperation, and she said, don't ever call me again. So that was a really bad time, really hard time.
It's rough.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to share this right now. It wasn't until I was talking with my staff, Mentors Care, and we were talking about depression and suicide, because suicide ideation is off the charts with kids. They're really struggling.
Yeah.
And I blurted out, I hadn't talked about it since, that I did try to kill myself.
Wow.
And by the grace of God, here I am. I don't understand it. I shouldn't be here. But I was so depressed.
Yeah.
So I get it. People say, well, you got to think beyond the moment. This is a temporary problem you're creating a permanent solution to a temporary problem. But when you're in it,
you're not thinking like that.
you're hurting so bad, and you can't see past that moment.
Sure.
You don't see past that moment.
Yeah.
So that's one of our biggest things with Mentors Care. We really want to be there for those kids, to have somebody to talk to, and we're learning the signs of knowing when is their intervention, when do you get them the help that they need.
Yeah.
But my heart. Anyway, so that was the first time I'd mentioned it out loud.
Wow,
Since
what a
then.
story.
Yeah,
and to equip you for what you're in now, to be able to relate to others, to these teens, like,
I get
definitely preparation for what you're doing now.
School is so hard. I was bullied. I was made fun of. I didn't wear makeup. I had curly hair that I tried to put in my face. I was pimple faced. I was overweight. I was not engaging not only were the kids mean to me, teachers were mean too.
Ugh.
Everybody just wished I would just go away because
so
I was
sad.
a problem. I was not doing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm causing work for everybody.
Right.
That's my heart. I mean, those kids
Yeah.
have such potential, every one of them.
Yeah.
They, a lot of times, most of them just didn't get a fair chance starting. So let's just love them right where they are
Yeah.
and believe that they have a future. That changes the world.
Yeah. That's so good.
One at a time.
Yeah.
And
that's so good.
I believe in the one-on-one mentoring because it's the message, you matter this
Yes.
much, that I'm going to show up just for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a powerful message.
Which I know, I know your mentors come in 1 hour a week, and really any of our time, that's really not much time. But you know, it's not a massive commitment. You know, it's doable for all of us. And to know that student has someone coming just for them every week. Hey, they're gonna miss you if you don't show up today, or I'm gonna notice you're gone. Like some of them don't have that. So what are some of the stories that stand out to you throughout Mentors Care, all the students that you've, you know, been involved with? What are some of the highlights?
The early years. So I was in the office for 5 years before I came out of the office to try to direct. So
In
we
the
can
broom
grow
closet
in the
office?
broom
Okay,
closet.
just making sure. Yeah. Okay. So the actual, so you were like the first coordinator.
I was it.
Okay,
It was
so
just
you were,
me.
it was everything.
I was everything. And didn't know what it was. And, you know, the poor people at the schools, you know, they were like, what are you doing? Like, you know, we
Why
didn't
do you
know
have
the
the
rules.
brooms?
We
Yeah.
didn't know, like, where do you fit? Just knew I was supposed to be there. And I was very supported by Al Hemley
That's good.
and the superintendent. So we're going to make it work.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'll never forget. Wow, there's several that are coming to mind. One, there was a girl that was brought to me, beautiful girl. She was 17. Her mother had had an aneurysm because of meth.
Wow.
And so she had half of her brain removed
Wow.
and was in a nursing home.
Wow.
Okay, so the girl was brought to me, never missed school, but she would have stress-induced seizures at
Wow.
school. So we got her a mentor, found out she was living with a guy, a boyfriend, and I remember writing down, will be homeless, because that's not going to work, you know. And he was not a student, he was older. And just got busy with her. She was so wounded and so traumatized by everything that had happened. Her father was an alcoholic. And what I noticed very quickly, which was true for me too, when the parents are not doing well or alcoholics or drug addicts, the extended family removes themselves, understandably, because they got to protect their kids and their people. So they do kind of back away and not be a part of that family. But what that does to the kids in that home is they don't have anybody.
Yeah.
Because I did find out she had family, but they weren't around and helping.
Right.
So the mentor and I were doing a lot for her, more than they're supposed to. Like now,
Yeah.
we learned a lot.
Right.
You know, over the years, we put rules into place to
Yeah.
safeguard the mentor, the
Sure.
program, the school,
Yeah.
everybody. But back then,
Right.
was doing way too much. But I said, so your mom's in a nursing home? And she goes, yeah. And I said, when's the last time you've seen her? She goes, it's been a long time. And I said, I'll take you. And she went, and I went, let's go. And I remember her saying, are you sure you want to see my mother? I said, of course I want to see your mother.
Yeah.
So we go, and by this time the mom is in hospice. Wow. She's not going to make it. As soon as we walk in, the mom starts screaming the girl's name, help me, I'm hurting. And I'm like, this is not good. This poor child, that's the
So
last thing she's going to
traumatized.
hear,
Yeah.
you know. The mother died, and I'll never forget that moment because it was the two hospice women, the girl and me. The mentor couldn't make it yet because she was at work. The mom died, and that was all the people in the world that was mourning that mother. And so, of course, she was a puddle,
Yeah.
and we worked with her a lot, you know. she graduated and helped her get a job after high school, helped her get an apartment, reconnected her with her father, who was doing better, but he had moved away because of everything that was going on. So, yeah, that was trauma. That was some of the worst, and it was very hard. Now, as a mentor, you know you're not called to do all of that, right?
I was going to say, people may be like, maybe not.
Yeah, I don't want to do all that. Yeah. No, we put a lot of parameters and guidelines around our mentors because we're just asking mentors to be a friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just show up
the
1 hour once a week. Then that coordinator is the social worker. They're the ones that are going to connect them to if we need hospice, if we need a nursing home, if, all those things.
Yeah.
She needed food. She needed a home. We found her a place to stay. She was homeless.
Good.
She was homeless.
Yeah.
Eventually. In fact, got the phone call that she had been kicked out. He beat her up. And I went and got her, of course. Everything she owned was in a trash bag. And I shouldn't have done this, but I brought her home and put her in my daughter's room because there was an extra bed in there.
Of course you did.
Have done that, But I remember I was making lunches the next day for Todd for work and for Lexi, and she goes, "You do this?" And I went, "Yeah." And she goes, "This is so cute. You really make lunches?"
Oh, she had no idea. It's so good.
But it brings me back to a memory of my Aunt Nell. When we talk about can 1 hour once a week truly make a difference, it can. And the example was my Aunt Nell was my mom's sister, and she was a beautiful person inside and out.
Yeah.
She loved everybody, and she always wanted to help people.
Yeah.
She would call me sugar. She would give me full-bodied hugs and make me just feel like I was the most important person in the room. She taught me how to paint. I became an artist later.
Oh, cool.
So a vivid memory is smells,
Yeah.
I could smell the linseed oil in her studio and just
cool.
precious moments. Her talking to me and asking questions, like really interested in me.
you. Yeah.
Never had that before.
Wow.
You know how many times I saw her growing up?
How many times?
3 times.
Really? And that stands out to you?
And that's why I believe in the mentoring 1 hour once a week. If it's deliberate, intentional, we're going to schedule this, you can get a lot done.
Yeah.
When the relationship is built between two people of trust, and I realize you don't want anything from me, you really care about me, they're going to watch everything you say, everything you do. They're going to want to know more. Like, they're watching everything.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're taught a lot more than you realize in that time.
Yeah. And, as adults, just looking at a young person and asking them a question. Like, I realize how often, I have to make sure I have specific eyes to see that. Because we'll be so caught up in talking to another adult, and you might end up having teenagers just kind of come up, but no one will say anything to them, So even just looking at them and having a conversation or asking them questions makes a lot of difference. But
I tell you what's killing relationships for kids more than anything.
Yeah.
And they long for it.
Yeah.
They need somebody to put this down, not look at this, and talk to them. That's so foreign to this generation.
Right.
Conversation, but they long for it.
Yeah.
Every human longs for it.
Yeah.
There was a study done it was after COVID, and they showed a video of kids getting off the bus 10 years ago. So they had the teenagers. Girls were giggling and talking, especially the one-on-one best friend, which girls typically do. And then the boys, they had the herd, and they're, pushing
each other,
punching each other, laughing, jumping on each other's backs, being boys.
Yeah.
They showed kids getting off the bus after COVID, every one of them.
Yeah. No interaction.
Heads down.
Yeah.
This is our opportunity.
Yeah. And then you add social media and to not only their interactions online, bullying online, kids finding their value and their worth and number of likes. I mean, you could go on for so long, but I mean, the stats are showing it too. It's really bad. So, okay, I know we'll have to wrap up soon. So any other stories that stand out to you from all the kids that you've worked with?
For some reason, I have one. I want to say this one because this was recent. I don't know if I should say this or not. Why not?
Just maybe leave out, obviously, any names or indicators.
No names.
Yeah, but any, like, geographic indicators, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a kiddo that was brought to us straight from the court system,
Okay.
back into the schools, and he was a murderer.
Wow.
MS-13, gang member, which is one of the
Wow.
most brutal. People would be shocked. But the court system deemed that he should go back to school to finish his diploma,
Wow.
which I don't understand, but I'm not
Yeah.
judge, jury, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was scary because they came to us and said, can you get him a mentor? And I'm like,
But that was a fun call to make to whoever that ended up being the
wow.
mentor. Yeah.
Yeah, we were like, we're gonna try. We just happened to meet a man that had been in prison his younger years. He was a gang leader, very
Wow,
violent gang
so
leader,
perfect.
turned his life around
Oh, wow.
and did a lot of work with teenagers that were in gangs.
Wow.
So he said,
perfect.
give me that kid. I want that kid. So this kiddo, of course he wasn't coming to school very often. So every time we tried to get the mentor and the student to meet, he wouldn't be at school.
Yeah.
He was skipping. He was
Yeah.
going back to his old ways,
Yeah.
probably, you know. I mean, that's what you know. Unless you have a mentor who
Yeah.
can show you a different way.
So good.
So the mentor kept coming, and he was being very kind and understanding.
Yeah.
He said, look, let's do this. When he's at school, call me, I'll leave work.
Oh, so great.
So the coordinator called him and said, he's here. So he showed up. They met, hit it off. He didn't miss any more school.
Wow.
He graduated high school, and he turned his life around.
That's so good.
So it's not just the child's life changed forever.
Yeah.
The mentor has an opportunity to give back and really, truly
Yes.
make a difference.
Yeah.
Then it impacts the community. That child who was
Yeah.
once dangerous
Yeah, absolutely.
and risky and going to be a burden financially on the
Yes.
community, it changes everything.
Yes, the
It's
ripple
so
effect.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, the ripple effect of giving any time and mentoring into the next generation is, I mean, not only generational, obviously, but like I love, bringing in the community aspect of, being someone that adds value to our community, which is great. That's so good. I just can't thank you enough for, in 2009, like going into the broom closet. So I'm so glad you took that
Yeah.
first step, and what y'all are doing is great. Just a couple of things I want to point out, like as far as Unite Ellis and the network and people being
Yeah.
involved in the community. If they're listening and they're like, I really want to, what do I do?
Yeah.
And not everybody has a schedule that they can get away during the day for an hour. So obviously we want people to mentor, come and sign up to be a mentor. But we also, through Care Portal and other tools throughout the Unite Ellis network, when there's needs that come up with any of the students, we put those needs into Care Portal. We get the information out. So that's another way that people can support. We also like to make sure the coordinators on every site have snacks, because every student in the Mentors Care program can come and get 2 snacks every day, right? So snacks galore. We always want snacks. So I actually have several people often that will come and say, like, how can I support the school? I'm like, snacks. Mentor, but also snacks, you know?
Yeah.
So there's many ways to get involved. And one wouldn't think, well, how is it me bringing granola bars is going to help? It really does. Like, you're adding into
does.
the whole thing. So
Yes.
it takes a village. So we'll put out all the information about how to get involved in Mentors Care and Unite Ellis. And in the end, we just want people to get involved in mentoring the next generation, whatever that looks like. So thank you, Dena, for coming and all that y'all are doing and your amazing stuff that you have. And we will see everyone next time.